So, Ben, QuickSide has just renewed its supply agreement with Epwin. Why?
Um, well, there's quite a lot of reasons why. I mean, I guess convenience is always a factor because we want to limit business interruptions as much as possible. Um, so I think we've been with Epwin now since 2019 when we migrated away from our previous system. Um, but we deal with them anyway. They've been a great supplier to us over the last 5 years, and they've really helped us out through COVID when they had their own challenges as well. But there was really no reason to change. We think they've got a system that was very similar to what we were using prior. We're now 5 years into dealing with that system. We've tweaked it, we've changed it. We think we've mastered manufacturing of it. We're now in a situation where we're developing the product further with them and without them. So we do some of our own stuff, we do some stuff in conjunction with them. But overall, it's less about the product and more about the supplier.
Yeah.
I think certainly over the last 12 to 18 months since the hangover from COVID has kind of finished and supply chains have settled down, they've really performed well. We're seeing OTIFs in the 90s, high 90s. Almost like no news is good news. When you don't hear anything, we're in a great place. That means we can also reduce our stock volumes, release a bit of cash back into the business. What's the reason why we wouldn't? That we're not looking to change. Prices are good, supply chain stable, performance is good. They're a forward-thinking business. They understand the market, they understand their customers as well, and we actually feel valued and appreciated, which is important to us because we know we're a good customer, and and when you've got that sort of relationship through the supply chain, it just strengthens the whole relationship. So it made sense. There's no reason for us to look anywhere else.
Why did you choose Epwin in the first place?
Well, when we initially went to market back in, I think it was around 2018-ish. I mean, a few years ago now. I can't quite remember when it was. We looked at a variety of systems. We did some work with Vika. We looked at their system at the time. We had a peek at Rayhow as well. We looked at the Uracell VS. So we looked kind of at what was around. The Epwin Spectus VS was the one that was aesthetically closest and technically similar to the system we were manufacturing. Right. So in terms of migrating products, that was obviously a big tick for us, because what we don't want to do is just migrate to something totally different when we've been used to manufacturing a system for however many 15 years, let's say, in a certain way. So familiarity played a big part in the initial decision making, because when we went into the decision making process, well, there was no preconceived ideas around who was a good supplier and who wasn't a good supplier. There were just names. So Rayhow was Rayhow, and Epwin was Epwin, and Uracell was Uracell, and so on and so forth. So there wasn't a huge amount in terms of the supplier at that point in time to help me make my decision. I mean, Vika, fantastic business, great system, hybrid system they had in place at the time, and like I said, we did some work with them initially. But then it comes down to cost, because ultimately we still have to make money. We still have to offer a product at a price point that still leaves a bit of residual money left over, so we can, enjoy some profits and reinvest and so on and so forth. And when we'd been through the kind of due diligence of supplier analysis and been through all the questions and looked at the systems in detail, split the technical manuals down. What does this do? What's that for? How do you manufacture this? What are the options that are available? And we also got to look at future-proofing the system too, because regulations change every 5 years or so, and increasingly more so where we are at the moment. So we've got to kind of wrap all that up, but then then we look at the costs on top. And at that point in time, when we did our final analysis, Epwin ticked all of the boxes that we needed to have ticked in order for us to conclude our decision. So that's where we ended up. But that's you go into these relationships, into these partnerships, you don't really know what you're getting into. You can only do so much due diligence in advance. It's almost like when you employ somebody, you can interview them, but you don't know what you're going to get. You're basing your expectation off the way someone portrays themselves to you. The proof is in the pudding. And now, sort of 5 years on, we find ourselves in a position where we think we've put our eggs in the right basket, as it were. So we no regrets, put it that way, from our decision making process. We're happy with our choice.
How do your customers benefit from the partnership?
Well, I guess in quite a variety of ways. I mean, you can look at a host of different things. So let's take cost, for example. So I think we buy our material at a reasonable price, at a fair and reasonable price, and prices they don't often, but they can fluctuate up, downwards, essentially, if there was a significant decrease in raw material cost. We would generally kind of pass those types of things on. So as a business, we aim to just maintain a specific price point and margin. We're not here to profiteer at all. We just kind of know this is kind of what we want at the end of it.
Yeah.
If we can make some savings at this end, whether that be through purchasing or whether it be through labor efficiency or whatever that might be, we want to remain competitive, and want to ensure that our customers can also remain competitive, because we know we've got competitors out there that are really kind of pushing the price point on products that we supply. So price is kind of one thing. Customer service and OTIF and all of that type of stuff is another significant factor. And it's almost, as I said earlier, no news is kind of good news. So we operate internally at around, on VS, typically 99 point something % OTIF. Wow. Now, in order for us to achieve that, we have to have robust supply chains, pretty much on three core aspects: profile, glass, and hardware. We've covered glass separately, but profile is an absolute fundamental, because we can't make a window without it. Now, when the relationship started, we had quite a lot of stock, because safety factor. We'd rather invest our cash in stock in order to ensure that we can always deliver when we say we're going to deliver. That's kind of like one of our things. That's what we do. But it also gets, not in a bad way, but it does get taken for granted, because once you start performing in that way, and once it becomes a fundamental aspect of the way in which your business operates, your customers get used to it, which is absolutely fine, because that's also what they're paying for. And that's why in some cases they'll pay a little bit more money from us, where they could pay a little bit less money elsewhere, but perhaps not necessarily have the same securities around that. But the robustness of the supply chain obviously goes downstream. So if we get good supply, we can provide good supply, but we can also invest cash in stock to ensure that we can always provide to our customers. So that's been a fundamental thing. But if we had a poor profile supply, no matter how much cash you invested in stock, there would always be some sort of issue or drama, and we just don't have that. And where we sit today, and one of the reasons we renewed our deal, is because the supply performance we get today is the very best we have ever had. And that's on many different elements of our supply chain, but specifically Epwin. They're performing wonderfully. So it means we can reduce stocks and so on and so forth, free up space. We've got less things to count. So their performance into us allows us to deliver OTIF, products on time, in full to our customer base. That's another aspect. Quality. I mean, we have the odd, and I do mean odd, quality issue. It was, only last Thursday we had our sort of bi-monthly meeting, big supply meeting, which we try and do with our major supply chains. And the non-conformances that my quality guys were discussing across the table. I mean, there's like 2. And that's we're spending millions of pounds on not just profile but other bits and pieces as well. There's some steel that comes in and whatever else we might buy, little bits of this, and we measure their performance on their delivery of everything, not just sticks of plastic. But if there's 6 of these little things missing, they know about it, and we make sure they know about it. But they're just in, when a business feels like it's in control, that's what it feels like, which ties up beautifully with how we operate, because we're in control of what we do. But when the whole supply chain works in unison with each other, you're just able to it just works sort of perpetually. It's wonderful. Now, not a lot of companies will know what that looks and feels like. We're fortunate that we've made some decisions with our supply chain that allow us to operate in that way. But in terms of quality, again, we're not sat here with loads of issues for us to address and credits going backwards and forwards, and this needs to be. It doesn't happen. So I guess on those 3 fronts, we can the quality of the product coming in means we can deliver a quality product going out. So we're I mean, I could go on and on. I mentioned earlier on about how forward thinking they are, and their product development. They're open, firstly, to listening to what we've got to say. Because we're a good sized VS customer, first and foremost. But they want to work with us based on what it is our customers are asking for. So the slim mid-rail that's recently been launched, well, that was a joint venture, really, between us and them. Now, they spent all the money on it, so I can't sort of profess to take any of that on. But it was, well, look, this is a gap in the market for the Spectre system. We think it would be useful if the window had this available. And in the context of what that business does, remember, for most profile houses, most of them that have a VS system, it's a really small bit of what they do. So for any system house to be that overly bothered about investing in the VS system, it's just a small bit of the market at the end of the day. But we're sat with a variety of people that want to listen, that took on board kind of what we were saying, picked up this project, pushed it through over a 12 to 15 month period, bought all the tooling. We were instrumental in providing feedback on, well, we think it might work this way, and they'd bounce ideas off us, these technical drawings and so on and so forth. And it really felt like we were part of that project. And now we sit in a situation where it's done, live, working, windows are out there. And I just don't know if we'd have got that somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You don't know, but where we sit today, it was nice to get something like that over the line. And also they support us in a certainly on a technical front. So as I said, we do some developments with them and we do some without them, just because there's some things that are bespoke to the way we manufacture. But their support ultimately into our business allows us to provide what we provide to our customer base. So that might be, new product developments is one example. It could be manufacturing efficiency if we're developing parts to speed up certain processes and so on and so forth. Everything that we try and do is focused on not cost cutting and not penny pinching, but customer service. But customer service can come from efficiencies, because it means you can effectively manufacture something quicker and expand your capacity. But all of these things help and support our end users at the end of the day. All we want to do is provide them a quality product on time, at a fair and reasonable price point, and they get all of the benefits of dealing with us on the back of that. So there's a few things there. Again, there's plenty more, but that's kind of how the sort of three-way supply chain works in terms of benefits from our supplier into us and how we can kind of pass those on.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
In a nutshell.
You mentioned development. Are there any future plans you can reveal?
That I can reveal? Well, we have got some big developments going on, but it's all very lock and key at the moment. But we are doing something quite special with our window. We're not fundamentally changing the product or anything like that. I think actually, as we sit today, the number of developmental projects relating to our Sash window is actually quite limited now. We sit today with most of our boxes ticked, as it were. We've got the 1.2 U-value VS, so that's a thing. We've got the slim mid-rail out there. We've made some manufacturing changes to our product based on internal quality issues and so on and so forth, bits that come up now and again. So there's only one major thing that's set, and we've kind of got some bespoke machinery, so custom made stuff, which is pretty fancy, being delivered to us in the next few months. And on the back of that, we're planning to launch our revised offering to the market from January.
Wow!
So we're excited to, but this is part of a 3-year plan. So 3.5, 4 years ago, whenever it was, we had our sort of quarterly board meeting, and we put this plan forward of a £3 million investment over 3 years, and we did the machining centre, and this is kind of the last bit of that to deliver this product strategy that we envisaged at the time. So we want to offer something really fancy and smart and nice into the marketplace at a really, really sensible and affordable price point. So we have our own thoughts on what that looks like. So I can't really say too much because I don't want it to. But there's still a lot of work to be done in getting it in and working and live. But we'll start hopefully when the machines land and we get them commissioned. You'll probably see some stuff or be involved in some of the marketing that goes out sort of shortly after. So that's all I can really say at the moment.
That's fine.
Without being too cloak and dagger.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ben.